All right, what's up everybody? This is Andrew Lee from @InstaCummins. We're down here at Carli Suspension Products. We're gonna talk to Dan, the sales manager, because we have a few questions and you guys submitted your questions and we're gonna get some answers for you. Follow me. All right, Dan. So for people who don't know what Carli Suspension is, what is it?
Carli Suspension is a manufacturer of performance suspension systems for heavy-duty Ram Ford trucks, specialize in straight axles, specialize in diesel. We do some Hemi, we do some 1500, but for the most part, we stick to our guns, man. We're good at the straight axle diesel world.
What makes Carli Suspension different than a lift kit? You know, some of the big name brands out there, they claim, you know, they'll raise you X amount of inches, you know, but it seems like those tend to sacrifice ride quality for looks. What does your guys' suspension do that might be different than the average lift kit that the consumer might not know about?
You just said it. So, you know, a lift kit is going to be focused around lift height. You got one goal, right? And that's why people so often think your kits are only 3 inches. You know, why? They're 3 inches, 4.5 inches, 6 inches. Why do they cost so much money? Right? Well, we don't equate lift height to dollar value spent in a kit. That's a stigma associated with lift kits, where your goal is to get to a certain height. To us, a height is a byproduct of the performance suspension you're putting underneath it, right? We're talking about how we're specialists in straight axle suspension. Straight axle, the only way to get more suspension travel is to actually lift the truck. You got to get the axle away from the frame. To do that, you have to lift it. We don't want big lifted trucks. We don't want super high centers of gravity. That makes these things super hard to drive, super hard to tune in. It makes them ride rough. We don't want to deal with any of that stuff. We keep the lift heights low. We want to run, you know, a 37-inch tire. 37-inch tire, that's the only way to get ground clearance in a straight axle, is tire height, right? You can do all the suspension height in the world, but if you're dragging an axle, it doesn't really matter. Yep. So the answer is we focus on the performance end, and what the lift comes out to, the lift comes out to. So that's how we differentiate ourselves, is better products, performance products. So take any single product we make, whether it's a coil spring, a shock, it's the best of the best. You know, coil springs, they're all shot peened, preset, powder coated by the manufacturer. The spring rates are proper and slightly reduced from stock. When you're talking shocks, it's going to be, you know, our entry level Carli stuff, where we actually now custom tune our entry level stuff. No more Bilstein even on the lower end of things. We do Foxes that are custom tuned, Kings that are custom tuned, and these are companies, these are brands that are inarguably the best.
All right, so we posted on our InstaCummins page, and as well as our buddies over at CJC Off-Road, we asked for your questions. We wanted you to submit for us to ask Carli Suspension here today. And right now we're about to go through a few of those, and if you got picked, you'll know here in a second. So at Blazini, I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it or not, but he asked, what's the advantage of longer arms versus the factory short arms? Also, what's the advantage of a long travel airbag setup when towing?
The longer the better in the arm to a certain degree. When you're talking about a short arm, the axle droops, it gets pulled back toward the cab. The axle compresses and it goes up toward the front bumper. You're already fighting lateral shift from a track bar in the front end, and that you really can't get rid of. You got an oil pan, you got things where you can't triangulate the upper link to eliminate that, you know, yaw, so to speak, of the front axle. Well, if you're trying to make the axle as linear as possible in the way that it travels, the longer the arm through that travel stroke up front, the more linear that axle is going to travel. And again, that's to a certain extent. You make the arms, ours happen to be about 50% longer than the stock arms, and the pivot points are dropped. When the pivot points are dropped, it leverages the front suspension more, so it wants to move upward rather than an arm angle that points down toward the contact patch of the tire that actually causes a bit of an in-cab jounce. This is exacerbated with taller lift heights, which is why, you know, our 6-inch kits have always been a long arm conversion with our radius arm kits, but the 3-inch suspensions have always run our short arms, with the exception of the super high end, where we now have a long arm kit with both that longer arm length and the drop pivot point for the better ride quality. To touch on the long travel airbags, it was another thing of why does Carli exist, right? We address these things as they need to be addressed. So in the rear, we extend travel of the factory leaf spring setup with our Deaver springs that have much more travel. They're progressive in rate, they're lighter rate, but by nature, it's spring steel. You can either go, you know, to a leaf spring that tows well, or you can go to a leaf spring that rides really well. In this sacrifice comes the lack of payload capacity. So it is about a 15% reduction in payload capacity. To get, make up for that 15% reduction, you have to put an airbag in the back. You put a standard airbag in the back that's a double bellow setup, and these are made to haul super heavy loads on factory design leaf springs. So most of them travel 4 to 5 inches. You tend to droop out the rear axle. It'll stretch the bag, cause you to have a big limit strap in the back. They've got way too much capacity for a non-commercial truck. They ramp up super quick. So it was another platform where guys, we could give them the best ride that they could get, but we couldn't give them a good option for the ones that are hauling in addition to wanting this better ride. The long travel airbags, instead of having a 1-to-1 piston ratio, they're a tapered piston. The lower one is smaller, the upper piston is larger. That means it increases at a rate, but it's not exponential like a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
Additionally, they'll travel a lot longer of a range, so it doesn't hold travel in the back and they don't ramp up as quick. It just takes the design of the airbag and puts it into the performance category. But as you'd expect, they are more expensive than a standard airbag setup, and they're a little bit lighter capacity. But these guys, they're 2,000-pound rated a piece, so they're more than enough for what these trucks will haul. Okay.
All right. So another question we had is, when installing a Carli suspension, especially in the rear, do you automatically lose towing capacity just by running your product? And if you do, what do you do to combat that?
So this is 100% dependent on the platform. In the older Ram, the older Ford platform, no. A lot of guys run factory rear suspension with our shocks. They don't even run any rear options. The rear capacity or the capacity of the vehicle comes from the factory spring. It comes from the rear leaf spring in general. So when you put on a Carli kit, the base kit structure means that the rear end is selectable. You can go Adapacks. The Adapacks basically modify the factory leaf springs by pulling off the lower overload. That's a stop for the rear suspension travel, and they replace it with a little progressive pack. It makes it so that the rear end's a lot more planted, a lot more predictable. It's not a lot softer, but it's going to handle better overall when paired with our shock valving. And that's going to maintain payload capacity for you, just might sag a touch more, since your payload capacity comes from your main spring pack, not your overload spring. Then we have an option for full replacement leaf springs in most applications. The full replacement leaf springs are generally a 15% reduction in payload capacity. Now, this changed a little bit with the newer trucks, because back when 2003, 2006 Rams were built, a 3/4 ton truck could have 1,500 pounds in the bed, and a 1 ton could have 2,000 pounds in the bed. Well, nowadays, these 3/4 tons are rated at 2,800 to 3,000 pounds in the bed, and these 1 tons are rated just exponentially more at 4,000 to 5,000 pounds in the bed, and dualies are 6 at this point in time. So that's a massive reduction in payload capacity, and that's when you need to start looking into airbag setups. But then you've got the outliers like the new Ram platform or the 3500s. You can get air assist in the rear from the factory. You can get air ride in the rear on the 2500. You can get coil spring rear on the 2500, and that is the kit where when you buy our suspension system, if it's a 3-inch lift and we swap out the coil in the back, it is a reduction down to 2,000 pounds in payload capacity with no real way to supplement that back up with Carli products. It's just the nature of how that truck is designed, unfortunately. So there's outliers, but for the most part, installing a Carli kit does not mean that there's a payload reduction with no recourse. In fact, there's almost always recourse short of one truck, and even then, there's other aftermarket manufacturers that have kind of jumped in to handle that with different various setups, and we can go into that in depth if anybody has that question moving forward.
We got a question from Adam Petton. He was wondering, basically, what's the best setup for a truck that just drives pavement, gravel roads? He says, not looking to jump or anything crazy, but I just want a better ride.
Depends on the truck. Wholly. If I'm talking, 3rd gen Dodge versus 2011 Ford, they fall into the same category because our kits, overlap quite a bit. So I would say for a gravel road performance and an on-road performance, and you're not looking to jump, you're not looking to drift, you're not driving it super hard like it's a sports car, the backcountry is the perfect kit. The Fox 2.0 rides fantastic on these trucks. The addition of the remote reservoir and the little bit more aggressive tuning that we put in there over the IFP Foxes that we have in the commuter kit make it so that you're not really limited to low-speed off-road stuff. You can go have fun in the truck, make it much more capable in stock. The backcountry does ride noticeably softer than the pin top in most applications, which are the 2.5-inch Kings on road. So there's a good, better, best for pretty much any application that you would want. For the guy that doesn't mind going slow on the dirt and wants the best on-road ride that he can get, commuter and Adapacks. The guy that no holds barred on the budget and he wants the best without going too far just needlessly, the backcountry in full springs is going to be the softest ride. And then the pin top is going to be for the guy who drives his truck like it's his Camaro. Just rips it around corners, has fun, wants a truck that's got no body roll, and he can actually start, having fun with the skinny pedal off in the dirt if he wants to.
Got a little bit more of a tech question here from Kagan Jeter. What makes Carli ball joints stand out from the rest of the competition?
I could spend as much time as you could sit there talking about this. I will say overall design, we keep the factory style. And what that means is it's nothing like a factory joint aside from the fact that it's a ball joint lower that bears most of the load, and the upper is a floating kingpin design. So there's not a lot of load aside from a little bit of lateral on the upper as your truck sits on those ball joints. Where we have differentiated ourselves is in materials. The ball joints are made from chromoly. Additionally, they're carburized, which is a certain way of heat treating. They've got a proprietary coating on them. That they're very, very hard. They're metal on metal wear surface. Grease is imperative in these ball joints because they're a metal on metal wear surface. But in our testing, it would take multiple million miles of turning cycles to get measurable wear out of ball joints. We back that with a warranty. We're not some huge company where we can afford to just put out a product that has a lifetime warranty, then exhaust the customer by replacing until they go with a different product. If we back something with a lifetime warranty, it's because it's going to stand up. But it's materials, it's design, and it's the guarantee behind those ball joints that makes them what they are.
We got another one over here from JMass22. He's asking, a little more simpler here, what's your favorite generation of Cummins-powered Ram trucks?
Third gen.
Man, that was a quick third gen.
Third gen.
That was a quick one.
100%.
All right.
100%. The only problems are the front end and the transmission, both of which you can handle. It's easy. The new trucks. I'm speaking as a resident of the great state of communist California, and that's why I say that. The third gen trucks you can. My 03, there's no cat, there's no in-cylinder EGR because it was a Texas-built truck, and it'll pass smog every 2 years that I've got going on here. Now this debate opens up to the ISIN and all the new stuff that they have on the new platform trucks. But again, being in the great state of California, we can't touch our motors, short of a few things that the smog tech can't detect. So the third gen happens to be my favorite platform. As long as it's a 5.9, I'm a happy guy.
Definitely agree with the 5.9s.
That's right.
Can't go wrong, man. All right, so the real Sunny, what makes Carli's shock tuning special? Or am I just paying for a Carli name? What's the difference?
What's on the inside that counts, right? So that's it. It comes down to the refinement of these kits. When you're changing the spring rate, you're only working with a certain platform. We have different tuning profiles within our shocks for the Hemi coils and the Hemi truck. For the diesel truck, in the 03 to 09, 10 to 12 is going to be a different valving profile. We got different profiles for short arms, for long arms, for 3-inch, for 6-inch, because the spring rate changes, the center of gravity changes, the seat of the pants feel changes. So we tweak these things so that the inside is completely different than any other shock out there, and it's refined to the platforms that we stick to and that we believe in, versus just a shock length that happens to work for a 0 to 2.5 inch lift that might cross over to a Tundra application or something else. And it may ride fine, it'd probably ride better than stock, if you were to go get some Fox 2.0 FP, but to spend the extra $10 and get our tuning profile, say, for the Fox 2.0 IFPs makes a world of difference.
All right, so Jeremy Buntick wants to know what's the best bang for the buck Carli kit? I guess I would say if you're talking Ram trucks, since it is Insta Cummins, right?
Sure.
So, what's the best bang for your buck? That doesn't necessarily mean, in my opinion, that it would be the least expensive, nor the most expensive. I guess my opinion of it is, bang for the buck means what am I getting the most for X amount of dollar?
Well, so you don't have to hear me talk for 2.5 hours about different applications. You're Insta Cummins. You asked me my favorite generation Ram. Let's talk third gen.
Okay.
Bang for the buck. If it were my money and someone gave me, I've got a third gen truck. I work with the truck. I'm a weekend warrior. Got a rooftop tent. I like doing expedition stuff. I like hitting fire roads at speed. But I need to be a reliable driver, and I want it to be composed and awesome on road as well, without spending way too much money for shocks I don't need. 100% of the time, pin top, full leaf springs in the back, mild steel control arms up front, torsion sway bar. If you got a heavy trailer or something, the long travel airbags in the back. There's a hell of a lot more Dodges than Fords at this time, though. So
hey, we like those odds, all right?
No, we do.
So I know this is going to start a bit of a heated debate in the comments, and I kind of hope it does, because it's a question that a lot of people have been asking us. Do you think that pineapple belongs on pizza?
No.
Wow,
no, pineapple,
that was a fast no, everyone.
Warm pineapple has no place in this world.
Oof. All right, so if you guys think pineapple should belong on pizza, I want you to comment it. If you don't, I want you to combat whoever. I want to have a full-blown pizza pineapple debate in the comments when you guys see this. So please, when you see this video, talk about pizza, talk about pineapple, tag people. You know, we're just trying to showcase some cool products that we run on our own vehicles, and you know, we wouldn't show it to you guys if we didn't stand behind it ourselves. So definitely give Carli Products a follow on Instagram. Check out, you know, their website. They got tons of information on there. Lots of different kits that can fit any budget, any type of build. I mean, that's pretty much it. I just want to thank Dan for sitting down with us here today and
thank you guys for coming
giving
out.
giving us a tour around the shop. I think that's it.
Signing off.
Right on.
Good chatting with you.
Cool.